Hello, 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 and welcome to Unique Leaders Live. I'm Megan DiMartino, and it is Friday, my favorite day of the week. And I say that not because it is Friday in the weekend, but because it's Unique Leaders Live. And I am always so thrilled to have my guest with me each and every Friday to share their heart, their story, and that you can see yourself in that story. So before we go on, I truly would ask you a favor to share this out on all of your social media platforms, because this will be truly a unique person, Mr. David Hill, that will just resonate with so many people, not only today, but in the future. So if you would just share this out on all your social media platforms, and again, go to YouTube, it's live there, and you can go back after and listen to David's story. And then next Tuesday, it will be on all the podcasting platforms. So go to iTunes and do a review. We would so appreciate it. And subscribe to YouTube. That would be so, so helpful. Not only David is here, but other amazing people that have been with me for the last year and a half. Now, today we have a little special treat because this is going to be actually put out on Clubhouse. Wow. So this is Electronics Supreme. So we'll see how this goes. And maybe we'll do this in the future. But today it is on Clubhouse. So without further ado, I'd like to invite you to join me and my guest, David Hill.
Hey, thanks, Hello. Megan. It's an honor to be here with you. Thank you for doing this.
It's a pleasure. So as I said, it is a new day because we're now putting this out right now on Clubhouse. So we'll see how that goes, and maybe we'll do that in the future. But we've been doing this for about a year and a half now. And, the comments I get, David, are from people about, obviously everyone has their own story, but it's really about your story. And your story unique to you, and you're a leader and you're unique. And so what I'd love to have you share with our guests is to go back to young David and where you were born and a little bit about you and then your journey to where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot. So
well, maybe the edited version, but
yeah. So do you have 20, hold on, 52 years. Yeah, I mean, listen, I started, going back to, being a young kid, my family, we were a really poor family. By the way, you should jump on Clubhouse, Megan, if you want. Go into the room and maybe your followers will.
Okay. Well, I can't do it right now because I don't have.
Fair enough.
Next time.
Yeah, listen, as a young kid, my family was really poor. I had a black father and a white mother, and back in the 60s, that was obviously a challenging situation for them. And I was born into that. And my family, my both of them, drank and did drugs and all kinds of other stuff. So. That's what I was around as a kid. And
where was that, David? Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
I was actually born in Boston, but we lived in the South Bronx, New York. So my family made money by, they sold stuff on street corners. So they sold different art that we created, and mostly art, different types of like paintings and shrink wrapped stuff. I learned at a young age how to shrink wrap, which most people probably don't even know what that means.
Oh no, I know what it means.
And they create these wooden. You take a piece of wood, like a piece of whatever type of wood, and then you'd stain it and you'd put a print on it and then cover it with all this like shellac stuff that would then harden up and turn into a nice print. So, we used to create those with the family, and then we'd sell them on the street corners between Boston and New York. My family would travel back and forth, and that's how we made money and survived. And we lived in a car.
I grew up on Long
crazy.
Island, and I had family in the Bronx, and we'd come into the city, into the Bronx. So that is not foreign to me at all. Not that, I was selling things on the street corner, but truly was very, very aware. And so this was in the 60s when you were a young kid.
With me, obviously, I was born in 69, but I mean, it was,
I see.
yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that my parents went through, and I'm not going to get into all that.
No,
but but the reality is, it was tough for them. I haven't seen my father since I was, I think, 12. So I don't even know if to be honest, I don't know if he's alive or not. I've tried reaching out a few times, but couldn't locate him. And so I mean, it's just not something I talk about.
No. But let me. I appreciate you sharing that, because we're gonna go into the next phase of your life. But we all have beginnings. We have beginnings, and on that beginning shapes you positively or negatively, or both. And you work through those things. So, you've done an amazing internal work of overcoming your childhood past. And so you obviously ended up, or maybe not obviously, but you live in the Boston area currently, correct?
Yeah, I live about 30 minutes west of Boston, and in a town called Millbury. And we grew up in Worcester, and my family, I guess based on the situation, did the best they could. As I got older, and my father was a very aggressive drunk, and he would beat my mother and beat me, and so that's what I went through. And I spent a lot of nights, scared to go. It's just a lot of stuff I went through. There's some different videos and stuff out there, but jumping forward, I mean. Listen, I used to have to climb out of my father would be beating my mom at night. So what I'd do is I'd climb out the window and I'd run all the way down to the payphone at the end of the street, and I'd call the police, and I'd run back to the house to climb in the window. And I knew once the police got there, they'd at least stop what was happening. So it was kind of like a safety net. And then there was the one time my father, the police got back. The police got there before I got back, before I could run back to the house. So now my father knew it was me that was doing it. So, I was kind of scared. I was really scared, to be honest with you. But anyway, next time it happened, I did it again. And even though I got beaten really hard, I did it again. And believe it or not, I feel like that, going through that as a child, although it was very difficult and tough, and it built a lot of resilience in me, and it really did. And I wouldn't, it's not a positive thing. I've made it a positive thing these many years later, but I got in a lot of trouble as a young kid, because the only skill I had was fight. That's it. I didn't know how to communicate. I was aggressive like my father. And if somebody said something I didn't like, the only thing I knew how to do was punch him in the mouth. My dad, the only thing my father taught me was kickboxing. Like, he taught me kickboxing at a young age. So, anyway, that was the product. That was the young David Hill. That was the product. And then,
but I just want to say this, from listening to you, that also, from you going out the window down to the payphone and calling, to me, says that that is a righteous thing to do, because you were protecting your mother, and you knew it was wrong, and you wanted to make a very bad situation as right as possible. And you knew that the local cops, who knew the whole home, obviously, would respond to your call. And so it was that first step of doing the right thing.
Yeah, it's kind of an ironic story when you think about it, because my first real job was actually in a call center for Kirby, selling vacuum cleaners. It never really occurred to me till a few years ago. I was having a conversation with Tim Story, and we were digging deep on all this stuff. So my first, real job, I mean, I had a job bagging groceries,
Right.
but that, didn't last very long anyway, because I wasn't really employable, to be honest with you. I've never really been employable my whole life. I'm still probably not employable. If
I don't know if that's true.
well, I'm an entrepreneur, so I mean, it's like I kind of
I
want to do
know.
my own thing. But ironically, I started that job working on the phones, and I was actually really, really good at it. And then I ended up leaving that Kirby call center, and I ended up going to work for MBNA America Bank. Now it's Chase, but back then, so I used to call people and be in a call center, and I'd call people, and I'd get them to do a credit card application over the phone.
Right.
Obviously, we can't do that anymore, but that's back in the day. That's where they did it, 20 something years ago. And that's actually probably 30 years ago now. Right. But I was really good at it because we'd go into these call centers, and I remember the call center was in Westboro, Massachusetts, and I'd never seen anything like it. There were probably 50 different cubicles. And what would happen is you'd have a phone and you'd have your scripts, and you'd make the call. And then if somebody agreed, then you'd stand up and raise your hand. And then the manager would come over and they'd jump on the phone and close the sale. And that's how you get credit. And that's how you'd get your little bonus. And I remember going in there for shifts, and, they were 4-hour shifts. I'd probably raise my hand 5-6 times sometimes. Wow. And other people would go through shifts for weeks and never raise their hand once. So, wow. There was something to it. I knew I had something that was working. Wasn't quite sure what it was. But then I left. I didn't feel right about it. I remember there were a few times that there were people I was talking to that I didn't really feel like they knew 100% what they were doing, but yet I was still raising my hand. They were still closing them. You know what I mean? And that's obviously why that was stopped. So I left, and then I went to work for a magazine called New England Condominium, and I literally started in the marketing department, and we were calling telephone books and calling other trade magazines, and I did that for 13 years. And I literally built I helped them build a regional magazine, cold calling seal coating companies, painting companies, landscape companies. I ended up having AT&T as a client, Verizon, Benjamin Moore, through cold calling. So it's but if you it's been part of my life. Then I went into real estate, and I built a top producing real estate business, got me all the way into Gary Keller's mastermind. I was hired by Gary before I left Keller Williams. I was a consultant we used to cold call real estate brokerages around the country and get them to meet with Gary Keller. And if you think about it, it's ironically, it all stems back to that running down to that payphone at the end of the road.
Yes.
Calling the cops on my father, which is just wild.
Yes. That's what when you were saying that, it was like, that isn't any lightweight point, because you didn't do it just once. You continued to do it. So it showed your resiliency, and it also showed your commitment to the righteousness of it, and because again, I've been in sales all my business life as well. And, similar, some, but not some, not. But regardless, all pretty much my career has been based on sales. And, it's about that commitment too, because you don't do it just once, like you said, because you're not going to raise your hand in the cubicle if you don't commit to doing it, right or wrong, meaning whether, that continued on or not, it was that commitment that you followed through. So
I was good, and I was able to connect with people on the phone, even though I was super shy and super introverted for whatever reason. When I got on the phone, for years, I struggled with that because I was actually better on the phone for some reason than I was in real person. Where most people, it's the opposite, right? Most people are like, "Oh, I don't want to use the phone." I felt like for me, it was easy, but in person, sometimes I struggled because I wasn't confident, honestly.
I think I was just going to say it was a confidence thing, but you built that over time. But you were able to hone your own script, so to speak, and build that. Yeah. Very, and I think back, now we're both on Clubhouse a lot. We met on Clubhouse, and you think about so many of the people on Clubhouse that we've known, basically are communicators, and obviously because it's audio, and that we've been in sales.
Yeah. Yeah. Clubhouse has helped. I don't know about you, but Clubhouse has actually helped me become an even better communicator, because I was used to speaking. I was a trainer for Keller Williams. So I went around for years. I went around and taught in front of, sometimes 5,000 people, right? I was on big stages. I would teach at regional events with 300-400 people. So I got used to being in front of a room and speaking on a mic. But Clubhouse was so different because you're speaking into a mic, but you're getting no real feedback.
None.
And it took a while to get used to that. It was awkward at the beginning for me.
Very.
And that was when I realized, like, I, as a speaker, almost needed that feedback, which I wasn't really aware of. Like, that was my style, right? I very back and forth. And sometimes you don't get that. So it makes you actually become more confident and more aware, at least for me. I don't know. How does it affected your ability?
Totally the same. Like you said, I have been an educator, a communicator, a trainer, like you just said. And so with that said, standing in front of, I've done keynoting in the spa industry to, one-on-one, but it's that connection and it's that feedback, and you're seeing their faces and they're responding and, or not responding, but you're seeing how the room is going. And so when my anniversary on Clubhouse, which yours is today, you shared, and that means the day we signed up for it, or our sponsor, we came into it. And mine was last Tuesday. And so that was the 6th of January, David. And I didn't say a word until the end of March, not a word. And for a long time, really, I didn't even, after Clubhouse, Glenn's Rise and Grind / then Breakfast with Champions piece was over, I kind of went off on my day. And so I'd pick it up at night. And it was one evening that Marcus Black was doing a fundraiser. And, his voice is so riveting and he's so gregarious, but he was doing a fundraiser. And it really struck me because I said to myself, man, this platform can be used for so many different things. And there were people all over the world responding. And so I said, wow. So I still didn't talk, but I said, And then one evening, about maybe a week or so later, it was a room that the title was, "Is Your Book Movie Worthy?" Okay. And I had published a little book on Amazon in December of 19, and it went to #1 January 4th of 20. So before this mess, okay, in 4 business categories.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. But it's really my little story, my story from little girl on Long Island, my dreams, goals, and aspirations through my husband's illness and passing. So it was that piece. And so anyhow, in this room, I just said, you know what the heck? So I have no idea what I said. And David, it was crickets. No one said a word. I said, well, that went over like a rat sandwich. I mean, it's like, oh boy. And then all of a sudden, this little voice goes, wow, I was just reading your bio. You've done a lot. That was Barbara Majeski.
Barbara's amazing. Right?
And
she
so
really
she said,
is.
I just gave you a follow. But I mean, so she was like so engrossed that she was reading my bio then. So I realized that just because no one said anything didn't mean that they didn't listen.
Yeah, half of them are scared to say anything anyway.
Right,
it's like,
exactly.
you don't really think of that, but most people on there, they're in their own head about saying something, which is pretty wild.
But that was my introduction as well. So yes, I think what you just said is and I've listened to you since last year, crafting our story, meaning listening to ourselves and realizing what is important for others to hear from it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think it's and I think that was when, for me, here's something else about Clubhouse, and we're obviously talking about Clubhouse. Here's something funny too with Clubhouse. This is my anniversary. I jumped on Clubhouse. A friend of mine invited me, Katrina Abdullah. She's a friend still. She invited me. I jumped on this first day, and I sat through a room with her, and I listened, and I said, this is ridiculous. Like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. and I just left, and I
Mhm.
didn't go back on again till like mid-March.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I don't know why I ended up going back on. I think she invited me. But this time around, I ended up in the Breakfast with Champions room.
Mhm.
And it
Mhm.
was that Saturday. I don't know if you were in there that Saturday that had Jay Abraham, Glenn, because I think it was Glenn Sanford that was in there. It was Glenn
Yes.
Sanford, Jay Abraham, Grant Cardone. I didn't know who Glenn Lundy was at the time. But
Mhm.
then I heard Brian Benstock. I heard the number one Honda dealership in the world. I'm like, what? Like, really, the number one in the world? I'm like, okay, I gotta listen. Like, and that was it. And then I was just sold. And that's pretty much, that's been my home base. I mean,
Yeah.
from the beginning. So
I
yeah,
was there that Saturday with that
yeah,
room.
yeah. I think
Yes.
a lot of people were. I think that was
Mhm.
kind of like that. That's like
Mhm.
the staple show, I would say, if there is one.
Yeah.
That Saturday was awesome.
Mhm. So let's go back to real estate. Let's go there and pick up essentially, like you said, you were one of the pioneers, I guess you'd say, with Keller Williams. Is that truth? I mean,
In
if
my
not,
area, absolutely. There was
Mhm.
no Keller Williams. It was me and this
Mhm.
guy named Kyle Ritchie. They
Mhm.
built the first office or market center around us back in
Mhm.
2000 and probably 2005. I started in 2002 in real estate, and then they opened up the Worcester office 2005.
Mhm. So you basically have honed your skill, your craft in real estate. And one of the things that I'd love you to share about, well, there's two things, but one is that you have in the last year, I have heard you say this. This is why I'm saying it, is that you have made on some level a recommitment to excellence and to going into the next level of your career. Meaning that you're like with your commitment to the Cardone structure and
Yeah.
things of that nature. So you're making a commitment to another, I don't want to say growth, those are my words, but meaning to another place. So might share a little bit about those thoughts and where you are with that.
Yeah, I mean, if my podcast is called Path to Mastery. My training company, my training/coaching company is called Path to Mastery. So, and everything I do is, I have a business page, Path to It's around Path to Mastery. So I feel like I'm always on a path to mastery, and I don't think the path ever ends. I think it's a continuation. It's continuing. There's no end. I'm going to continue evolving, continue getting. I'm better than I was today than I was 5 years ago.
Mhm.
5 years ago, I was way better than I was the 5 years before that.
Mhm.
And I was a broken individual, from my childhood and from a lot of the stuff my father put me through, and some of the other stuff, some of the trouble I got in at a young age, and it's a miracle. So I had a lot of brokenness to fix. And for people that are listening, I mean, there's it's I mean, you can show up on the outside. Like, I was good at showing up on the outside, right?
Mhm.
But on the inside, I felt like a different person. You almost feel like a fraud, right?
Mhm.
And so that, for not, yeah. And I think the more we work on ourselves, and the more, self-development and, personal development we do, we become more aware of ourselves. We become more confident. We start to forgive. I had to forgive my father, which was a key. I realizing that he went through a lot. For whatever reason, and listen, I have 3 daughters. My daughters are phenomenal. They will never ever experience anything like I did. They don't even know that like exists. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's a blessing, because I know too many people. We grew up in really poor. We grew up, in the projects in poor neighborhoods, and
Mhm.
most of the people I grew up with are either dead or in jail, or they're on
Mhm.
drugs.
Mhm.
They look like hell. I just saw this kid. He was a good friend of mine. I saw him. I don't know. I saw him a while ago. He's same age as me. He's maybe a little older than me. He's pumping gas. I mean, it's, and I don't want to say it, listen, I don't know. I just feel like there's so much more,
Well, that's why I
and
wanted
I
you
don't
to
want to,
share this, David, to
yeah,
be
I hope
frank
that
with
didn't
you.
sound bad that I said that about
No,
somebody,
no,
but I
no,
mean, the
no.
reality is,
No, no, no,
he
no.
was pumping gas, and this is why I say that, because I remember when we were kids, and he got a job as a gas attendant, and he had said, I'm a petroleum, dispatch producer or something like that. Like you put this title on it, and it sounded cool, but here we are, 30, 40 years later, and you're still pumping gas. I mean, and that's a challenge.
Well, that's why I wanted you to share that, the road to mastery, and to, like I use the word goals, because and growth, because it is a choice, it's a decision, and you had to make that along the line of all of this journey. And you, in that journey, yes, you grew, and yes, you had internal struggles, but you continued on and you did not stop. I always say it's never too early or too late to create the life of your dreams. It's not, but you have to make that decision. And so you were at another crossroads. I don't know how long, 19 years ago, you made a crossroads for sobriety. Because again, this Unique Leaders is about, because this started, quite frankly, David, in the beginning of the lockdown. And what my heart was to give people encouragement, because we were going into a place of not knowing what was going on. And so it just kind of grew from there. But that is what I hear people's response to this, is that they so enjoy people's stories because they're transparent, and they're about, it's not just the shiny object of today, it's the journey of getting there. So it has helped people, and I've been told that.
I can't begin to tell you how grateful I am for you sharing your story today, David. Sorry to cut you off, but I have just been going through my own, setbacks, in different, like mainly health related. And it was, it kind of sucked because my situation was in remission for 6 years, and then it came back, and I saw it as a complete failure. But then I just paused today and I was like, no, I'm not going to do this to myself. I'm not going to do this to myself. And I'm going to bounce back, and I'm going to put it back into remission. And I don't know, I really just needed to hear this story today. And that's the thing, is that I think sometimes we all see, the glitz and glam of Clubhouse, Instagram, Facebook, and all these amazing, happy stories. But we fail to realize that people have tremendous hurdles. And in fact, those who are, the most successful, or what we peg as the most successful, have probably had the biggest challenges on the planet. Right. And it's you can't win without going through these setbacks, because, you really don't understand what winning is about if it's just a linear, a linear growth kind of trajectory or whatever. So anyway, thank you so much for sharing that story. I just wanted to tell you that.
Yeah. Appreciate you popping in. And Megan, did you want?
And her name is?
Yeah, that's Susan. Susan, how do you say your last name from Clubhouse? That was a surprise, right?
Exactly. Well, I'd like to share with.
It's Jaquilyn.
Jaquilyn. Look at that. That's so
Miss
cool.
Susan, I'm Megan DiMartino, and this is my little live and podcast. So you're going to be on Unique Leaders Live, Susan. That's why I wanted to share your name.
Thank
David,
you so kindly. It'd be an honor, actually. I mean, I'm going to tell you a story. May I share a story with you in try to share it in 5 minutes or less?
I would say if you could do it in a minute or less, that would probably be ideal.
Okay, well then I'll do it on another time, because it is quite lengthy.
I was just going to say, Susan, this is actually live, and it's going to be on YouTube and a podcast. So we're just testing out the platform of a Clubhouse. I am thrilled that you came in and shared, honestly, because you came in, it's almost like a cue, because I was sharing with David how people respond offline, Susan, saying how these, like David, sharing his story helps give them the point of reference that they too can overcome. So David was just about to share a little bit, though, Susan, and do connect with both David and I. Would love to be with you. And I have a Clubhouse room called Heartlink on Tuesday evenings at 5 Central, and do come in. It's really just like this in a sense. So do, but David was going to share about his journey of sobriety.
Yeah, thank you for popping in, Susan.
Yes,
definitely appreciate you popping into the rooms and everything.
No problem. Thank you for sharing the story. It's inspiring.
Absolutely. And Jan and Donna and Anna and Andrea and everybody else, and Navish that's here. Appreciate all of you guys for just hanging out and listening. So a story of sobriety. So listen, 2000 and I got in a lot of trouble as a young adult. I was an angry kid. Like I said earlier, I had no real communication skill or ability. I just wasn't taught that at a young age. My family, we moved around a lot. We jumped from different house to different house, different state to different state. We lived in apartments. We lived in cars. So I didn't interact with a lot of other kids, and like I said, the only skill I had, I knew how to fight. So my dad taught me kickboxing and she's ironic. So in a way, yeah, anyway, to sobriety, I got myself in a good amount of trouble as a young adult, a child, a teenager, a child, and a young adult. And I got myself some real trouble. And when I was 19, I ended up in court, and I ended up I was either going to go to jail for some time, or they were going to let me go to a rehabilitation center, which was called Western Mass Alcohol Rehabilitation Center. And now it's a casino, by the way. They knocked the building down, and now that's where the casino is. But I ended up going up there, and it was, I went through that program. I was there for like 6 months. And then it's an alternative to being in jail, but technically it is technically being incarcerated, although it's like a minimum security, and, you get to have furloughs and stuff. But I went there, and I don't know, for whatever reason, I just, I'm sorry, wait, that was 1989. I went there in 1989, and I went through it, and I left there with a, mind full of sobriety and some habits that I had created. But the challenge was, when I left there, I went back to the same environment I was in before. So within probably 6 months, I was hanging out with my old buddies. I was going to keg parties again. I was doing, all the stupid stuff that we did, that I did, I should say. And before you knew it, I was drinking again, and then, back into trouble. So anyway, long story short, 2002, 2001, I get myself in trouble again. And here I am in front of the judge, and they were going to actually lock me up. But for whatever reason, my mother and my 94-year-old grandmother, who I was really upset with my mother that she even brought her to court, to the courthouse, but my mother did. The reason, I believe now, these many years later, that the reason I didn't go to prison is because my mother and my grandmother were there, and they gave me another chance, and they said, okay, we're going to let you go up to this place again. Here we are, 11 years later. And, but this time you're on probation for 3.5 years when you get out. And if you get in trouble, you're going to do 2.5 years with a year on and after, which is a good amount of time. So anyway, I got up there, I met a corrections officer, and his name was Clinton. He befriended me. He was a tough guy. Tough in a sense of tough, but also tough in a sense of like direct to the point, super disciplined, tell you the way it is. You mess around with him, he'll slap the hell out of you and throw you. You're right. But for whatever reason, I related to him. He befriended me. He brought me to some outside meetings in Springfield. This little old black lady in Springfield, Massachusetts, came up to me at a meeting, and she asked me if I wanted to get sober. And I said I did. And she grabbed my arm, and she said, well, if you want to get sober, then you need to get on your knees, and you need to humble yourself. And I didn't really understand what that meant at the time, but she looked me right in the eyes, and she was holding my arm. And nobody in the world, I don't think, could have held my arm like that at that time. Nobody else could, except her, could have delivered that message. But for whatever reason, I went back to Howard Street that night, and I got on my knee for the first time in my life. And I made sure no one else was around, and I made sure no one saw me do it. I got on my knee, and I just got back up. And I truly believe that was the beginning. And it's the one thing I've done every single day, every day, morning and night. I get on my knees in the morning. I ask a power greater than myself, and it's God today, to keep me sober for a day. And I asked for more things. I asked to be reasonable, and I asked to be empathetic, and I asked to be compassionate, and things that I didn't grow up being, right. And then at the end of the day, I get on my knees and I say thank you. And again, that was the beginning of the change for me, the evolution. And it was just the beginning of putting because the first, I can't even change unless I clean up myself first. I have to put down that drink, right? I have to stop.
Right.
And so that was the beginning. And, here I am. November 7th was 19 years. It's a part of my life. I'm not secretive about it. I like to share it because I feel like there's a lot of other people that, hear the message and they reach out to me, and sometimes they're dealing with it. Sometimes they have family members that are dealing with it, and still go to 3 meetings a week. Tonight's Wednesday. Today we're recording this on Wednesday. I know it comes out on Friday, but Wednesday night is a meeting. I've been going to the same meeting for 15 years. Every Wednesday night, small group. It's part of my recovery. I love it. I love it. I don't think there's anything better I could be doing Wednesday night at 8 p.m. besides going to that meeting and just being with that group and sharing. And they share, and we all relate to each other, and we're all nuts. And but you know what? You walk in there, and then you always walk out feeling better, no matter what. I don't think I've ever left the meeting feeling worse than when I went in, ever. So it's a gift.
Thank you for sharing that. I did a live, it was around Christmas, about, and again, everyone's story is different. That's why Unique Leaders is Unique Leaders, but I'm married when I was rather young, and I was married to a guy that, as my father said, the resume was great, but there's something wrong. And what was wrong was there was no spectrum in the day, but he probably has Asperger's, meaning he's still living. And so to be in a relationship-less marriage at young, so a glass of wine became my friend. It became my connection. And, as time goes on, of course, social drinking was the norm, but yet behind closed doors. And then as my children, 2 daughters, and now they're adults, and, spent most of my life as an adult alone, and at night, I'm talking about, and so just becomes your connection. And I came to a place just recently in the last year that I knew that it was for so many different reasons. And 1, health; 2, weight; 3, just allowing something else to not take over, but to be part of my life that I didn't necessarily want in my life, that I needed to make changes. And I would be lying to say I haven't had a glass of wine since, in the last year and a half, but the habit and the pattern of, at home by myself I have broken that. And I know how difficult that is, because trust me, the last year was not the first time I said that, to myself. And so it's like, oh, tomorrow type of thing. It's like losing weight. And so, I understand how difficult it is, especially then, with it being so ingrained part of your life, like you shared. So I know, like you just said, that it's your story, not only today and the people in the clubhouse room and the people that will listen Friday, and then we do a replay on Saturday, and then it's on YouTube and all that. So your story will be, and then you can share it out. You can use this from your own marketing. Absolutely. Please do. So, it's, so I would love to spend a minute before.
To your point though, when you said it's difficult. So here's what I would say. I'd say it is, I don't know that it's difficult anymore. It's just part of my life now.
Oh,
right.
No,
in the beginning it was, now it's a routine. It's about consistency. But in the beginning, yes, I think there's a lot of things you have to do in the beginning for people that are thinking about this. I had to separate myself from certain people. I had to stop going to certain places. I had to change everything, change the people I hung out with, the place I went, everything. My whole life needed to be focused around sobriety. And it still is to an extent, but it's a habit now. Right. So I think So I would just say for people, one of the reasons I partner with Cardone is I love their philosophy on sales training. But one of the things, if you read the book, the 10X rule, the premise is that if you're going to take on something, it's going to be 10 times harder than you think it's going to be. And I feel it's a mistake a lot of us make when we decide, okay, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to start a business, you're going to start a podcast, whatever it is. you really want to plan in the beginning. And we typically underestimate how much work it's going to be.
Right.
So I think sobriety is no different, especially in the beginning. It's going to be 10 times harder, but if you're willing to make the commitment and you do those fundamental things, it can be done. So I just wanted to share that.
No, I know it, and we could talk about that piece right there for until this afternoon, because it is about, and by the grace of God, and I say this, is that I was brought up by a person, my dad, who was a very committed guy in everything he did, meaning being a dad. He was an entrepreneur, meaning so I was brought up with work ethic. And so like you just said about this podcast and live, I mean, to stop it, I couldn't do that, because even I've said to myself many times, who's listening to this? I mean, what's the point of this? But it really is that commitment. And as time has gone on, it has picked up its own life of its own. But the thing is that it is that true commitment to doing it, and doing it with a spirit of excellence as well. So yes, that I've read his book, yes, and very much respect both he and Elena for their hearts and spirits. And
you going to 10X Ladies?
I'm planning on it. I'm planning on it. Yes.
Have you got a ticket yet?
No, I haven't bought.
Then you get your ticket from me if you're going to get one.
What do you mean? You're selling tickets?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm a licensee, so I sell all their products.
Oh, okay.
And train on.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want one, let me know. I'm happy to talk to you about it too.
Okay.
But what I was going to say is, I think, we've talked a lot about my challenges, my sobriety. I mean, listen, life's been a blessing for me. I've built the number one producing real estate business in my area. I'm a phenomenal father. I love my daughters. I feel like I'm a good husband.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's such thing as a perfect husband or perfect father, but I certainly want to be the best I can. I love my wife. I feel like she loves me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nothing like what I grew up with. We built a pretty good business in the process of transitioning now and doing more training and coaching, which is 10X rule. It's 10 times friggin' harder than I thought. And that's what I'm battling with now. Because when things don't go the way I want them to, I tend to go back and say, I'm going to go take another listing, because that's easy for me.
Right.
So
right.
I'm kind of battling back and forth between, I'm going to just go all in on training and coaching and make my living that way. But then things aren't going as the way I want. I go back to, I'll just go call some sellers. But
the answers will reveal themselves. Yeah. Take that first step and don't stop,
Yeah, absolutely.
So as we wind down, and this is a good segue, what you just said right there, David, I asked my guests the same question. And I mentioned Sharon earlier, Sharon Lecter, who's one of my she is a mentor of mine and a friend. And she and Greg Reed wrote a book, 3 Feet from Gold. And I don't know if you've ever read it, but a great book.
Recommend it to every salesperson needs to read that.
100%. 100%. And in the book, Sharon has her success formula, and she uses it in her trainings as well. But it is your passion times talent, or passion plus talent times association plus action plus faith equals success. Now, I'm not going to ask you all of them, but David Hill, what is your passion and what is your talent?
Yeah. My passion is I love nothing more than when people, reach back out to me and say, hey, because of your training, your podcast, your this, your Zoom, whatever, your clubhouse room, I was able to achieve this. I love that, which is why I love teaching, training. Nothing makes me feel more alive than being on a stage. And, I just did an event with EXP in their virtual world, and it was awesome. And I got awesome feedback yesterday, and they invited me to do another event. I used to go around and teach with KW, and I was on stage with Gary Keller at Mega Camp 2011. There were, I think, 12,000 people in the audience. I felt like I'll tell you, it was probably one of the most alive times I've been in my life. And that's my passion, doing that. So I just want to love that. I want to do more of that, duplicate that. And it doesn't matter if it's one person or it's 100,000 people.
Well, you just answered your question about your coaching. You just answered your question. Just stay with it, and it will grow from there, from one person to how many ever. So that's your passion, helping others, and what is your talent?
Oh gosh. What is my talent? That's a good question. I think I'm good. I feel I'm really good with people. And I also am I'm a nerd. A lot of people don't notice about me, but I'm a nerd about I can figure out, I can build funnels, I can put pieces together for
Yeah.
follow up, I can do all these things. Like I can kind of figure, like I would have told you years ago that, wow, why have I been such a top producing salesperson? Because I'm really good with people. But what I realized, 80% of my business comes from follow up. So I'm actually really, really good at systems. I'm good at creating systems and automating things and things like that. So I think that's a skill as well. I don't know if that's my main talent. I think probably my main talent is I feel like I'm pretty good with people for the most part. So
But I would go to Vegas and bet that you will tie that talent, the nerd system talent, to the training talent, the coaching, to the next step.
absolutely, yeah. I'm
Mhm.
actually going to be doing a pitch for. I'm excited about doing a pitch. Grant's got the incubator program where people pitch ideas. So I got a really cool idea I've been sitting on for
Good.
25 years that I'm finally going to be pitching and bringing it to the real world. So I'm excited about that.
Great. Well, David Hill, thank you so much for being with me today. I truly, truly
Thank
appreciate it.
you. This was
Really.
super fun.
Yeah.
It was
And I
awesome.
mean, so it'll be interesting to see the response we get on our friends at Clubhouse. And thank you, Christina, for being with us and sharing. We appreciate you. And so I will see you on the halls of Clubhouse.
Yeah,
And
we need to get you on my podcast now. So
love it. Would love it.
let me send you a link, or if you could have your what's her name?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. Sorry. Yeah, Elizabeth, reach out to me and I'll get you a link. You guys get scheduled on my podcast. How's that sound?
Sounds perfect. I'd love it. Love it. Love it.
All right.
Thank you
Awesome.
so much. And happy anniversary on these halls of Clubhouse.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you soon. Be blessed.
Facebook anniversary
Thank
and
you.
Clubhouse anniversary. Thank you.
Wow. What a special, special, unique leaders. As you can see, David and I spend time together on Clubhouse. Clubhouse has been a truly unique experience for me this past year of transition from a brick and mortar business to a building a course that's coming out, Propel Business and Life Activation to start, scale, and sustain your business and life with my 5 C's: clarity, courage, confidence, commitment, and compassion. That is in its pre-launch right now. You can go to the Facebook group called Propel Your Business and Life and join that. I did a masterclass last week, and that's still there, pre-recorded, so that's there, as well as a piece of the workbook from the clarity section from the start module. So you can go and get a taste and see that. So I would love, love, love you to do that. This is January, and it's the celebration month for my book I mentioned earlier with David, and went to #1 on January 4th, 2020 in 4 categories. It's called Hope and Possibilities Just Over the Horizon. It's never too early or too late to create the life of your dreams. It's never, as David has said. And every unique leader, you hear that story, you hear the same thing, that it is one, that their beginnings, regardless, and then that evolution. And it's taking that first step, and the second and third step will be revealed to you. So the book, as well as the audio book, are no charge this month. It's my gift to you. So go to, you can download it on my website, megandimartino.com. It's right there on the screen. But also, when you go to Instagram, you can just go to where it says the book, if you're interested in the book, and it will take you to the website. But also go to the website and download it. And it is there, both the book as well as the audio book. And the other thing that I found out today, this is like drum roll, please. This is like, oh my goodness, I'm so excited, is that Novitas Spa Clinical Products is now available on Instagram and Facebook. So you can go on to shop on both platforms, and it will take you to the website, novitasspa.com, but it will take you to the shopping cart. So, wow, I'm so excited. So it takes that step out of it. And there's free freight. That's in honor of January and the celebration. That's sneak peek. That's pretty much always now. But bottom line is the products are there. And when you sign up, you'll get on our e-blast, and we have monthly specials. And so I'm just so excited that the products that I've been building for 30 years are on these platforms. So that's very, very fun. They've been on my shopping cart since 2004, and they've been at the Novitas Spa, my brick and mortar, which I sold last year. But bottom line is now you can just go on Instagram or Facebook, and they're there. So I'm very excited. So guys, thank you for joining me today on Unique Leaders. And thank you, David Hill, for being with me and being so vulnerable and so open and sharing your heart, your story. You're truly a unique leader, and you're just beginning, truly. So till next Friday with our next Unique Leaders, I thank you so much. And this will be on YouTube right now, so you can send people there, subscribe. Tomorrow there'll be a replay on the social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook, but again, live on YouTube. And then Tuesday, it will be a podcast on all the iTunes and all the podcasting platforms. So do join and subscribe and leave a review. It would be so helpful to myself and all my guests that have been with me for the last year and a half. So till next time, have a wonderful weekend and be blessed.